Good morning, interweb. Welcome back to the Artifexian podcast. In this month's episode, we start with various assorted items of follow-up and discussion, ukulele-backed non-apology apologies, propaganda posters, religion, that kind of thing. In Cairn, a named character dies, brackets, will die, or did they, brackets, or will they? Only time will tell. We go on to figure out nasal vowels for the Abheski language. Spoilers, the North Sea Germanic nasal aspirant law number 2 got yeeted immediately by Bill. And we round off proceedings with Bill giving us his thoughts on Avatar: The Last Airbender. All that, plus lots more, in this month's episode. Oh, shit. I shouldn't have done this on recording. We should have done this before recording. But I want to know, have you heard about the juicy internet drama that involves Colleen Ballinger?
Oh, it's so bad.
Oh my God. So have you seen the ukulele song?
I haven't watched the video itself, but I watched Anthony Fantano's review of it.
Oh, he did a review. I didn't know that. That is golden. That is absolutely golden. So I've been following this rather closely because, as we've already established, I love trash TV. And this definitely falls into like TLC.
Real Housewives of YouTube.
Yeah, that sort of thing. And I was like, oh, at some stage she's going to have to come out and make an apology for all these things. And then her apology video came up and I was like, and I, a connoisseur of YouTube apologies, was like, I'm in, let's go. And I opened the video. And then the minute she picked up the ukulele, I audibly gasped. I was like, oh no, don't. Oh, please. And then she started playing. And I was like, what universe am I in? And then I had to remind myself, the woman is I think she's late 30s or 40s. And it's like, you're a whole ass adult. And you thought that this is an appropriate thing to do? It was insane.
She's like 36, I think. So she's not that much older than us.
No, exactly. And I think I'd have enough cop to be able if I was accused of grooming, even if let's just work on the assumption, probably a false assumption, that you were entirely innocent of that. It is not appropriate to address these things through the medium of musical theatre. That's not right. Come on. It's just insanity. Anyway, I've been, over the past few days, every so often, some other person I follow reviews the apology. Vosh and things did that, and Hassan and all that crack. And it's so fun watching people have the same sort of shocked reaction to this, the same sort of mouth aghast or mouth or jaw on the floor, being oh no. And then the best thing as well is that it's okay, maybe there was a little musical intro, right? And then we get into serious time after that. But it's 12 minutes. It's a 12-minute ukulele song that had to have been composed, thought about. The lyrics had to have been written. Unless she's some amazing performer, I would imagine, given the mental state she's in, she probably didn't hit it out in one take either. So
exactly. That was going to be my point, yeah.
So you'd have to take takes of it, and there's no cuts that I could see. So it is a 12-minute straight performance without ever forgetting any lines or anything, which is really difficult to do. So just imagine being I'm going to record my apology video and I'm going to dedicate the entire morning to getting all these takes to it. It is just it probably is the worst apology I have ever seen on YouTube. It is, well, it's not even an apology, it's a non-apology, but the sort of apology adjacent video. It is hilariously bad. I love it so much. Not to make light of the situation, I just want to say, obviously these are serious allegations, but if we just park that and let's hope that maybe, if they are as serious as they are, that actual police get involved, that would be kind of nice. So we can just let professionals deal with that. But as a sort of content sort of thing, it's just hilarious to follow this. It's insanity. Anyhow, should we start the show?
Let's start the show.
Bill, I had a pretty rough day yesterday, and I was like, Bill, I'm finding it very hard to get anything done. Would you be able to do the show notes in prep for today's recording? Bill kindly obliged, given that he's a great bloke.
True.
But it means that I don't know what the sort of what's going to come up. So Bill's in charge this time, not for a meme, but just because it makes practical sense. So Bill, take it away.
Well, let's open the show with a 10-minute hymn to Bill.
Yes, let's do that.
Okay, we're going to start with some follow-up. People seem to generally enjoy the Lang building for the Abheski language from last episode.
Yeah, and I think I'm thankful that people like it, because this is going to be the conlanging avenue in Artifexian towers, and I'm glad people are on board with it.
And I need to admit that I actually forgot 3 words.
I saw this in show notes and I was like, oh God, these 3 words are probably going to end up breaking all the prep I've done. So I would like you to tell me these 3 words, please, Bill.
Okay, I don't think they will, because they have the same kind of mouthfeel for me. So I reckon they're
they're already in the dock. Fantastic.
Yeah. So the 3 words are Mied Pivan, he was the brewer from that episode. Halev was the baker, who he definitely didn't steal a little grain from. And Okarev was the member of the supply committee he was writing to.
Sorry, second name again? I'm trying to just put it into IPA.
Halev.
Yeah, and then the next one?
Okarev.
Okarev. Rev.
Okarev.
Yeah.
And Mied Pivan, not Mien.
Oh, thank you. You're looking at the doc too.
Yeah.
We should say there's going to be a lot of looking at the doc, so we're going to record our screen later, folks. I'll let you know when you can switch to YouTube or something like that, because we're going to need to write stuff on top of what we're doing. It's very hard to do this just purely in audio form. Mied Pivan. Okay. Wonderful. Okay, that... Does it break stuff? It does not. It does not.
I don't really think it does.
Yeah, no, it's not earth shattering. It definitely isn't earth shattering. It's fine. Some of the plans will affect these. Will affect this one in particular that I have. This okay. May have to change, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. We'll talk about it later.
We'll burn that bridge when we come to it.
I am so excited. It's going to be so much fun. Okay, so you forgot 3 names. That's cool. They're logged. Nothing earth shattering.
Okay, cool. So in the Reddit from last episode, there was a great point brought up by Generalitari.
Generality? Oh no, it's not.
Generalitari.
Generalitari, yeah.
Generalitari. Okay, if you could tell us how you would like that pronounced, please. Generalitari.
Bob.
The posters got me thinking, they say. They're clearly based on Soviet era posters, but would Abheski people even recognize the mood they're trying to convey? We see the color scheme as intense and threatening. Would they see the color scheme as intense and threatening in the same way we do? Would they understand a horned head as symbolic of evil? To the best of my knowledge, the idea of horns being evil are a result of Christianity demonizing horned pagan gods in order to disrupt their worship. It's not clear what the Abheski religion believes, but they certainly have a different religious history. Though if urselks are a common and known threat, perhaps the image of antlers would have a similar symbolic meaning. So this is great. This is the kind of thing I do think about a lot when it comes to making more visual things like this. Like I was saying about I would find it difficult to make posters because we haven't done the content and we don't have a script. I would also kind of think about what is the existing visual language. What is their understanding of aesthetics? What's their art history? I wouldn't say for sure that they do think of horns as evil. But for the purpose that poster was trying to do, kind of bring the propaganda of the LPE into something understandable to us, then it perfectly makes sense. But I'm not sure it would be exactly the same as an in-universe document. And I would have to think about things like the horned heads and the color schemes.
Yeah, I agree. Although I don't think, at least my take would have been that, and I think I replied to Generalitari. I don't think it's massively far off, because I don't think it's a stretch to imagine that the colors, black, white, red, are symbolic of kind of like negative. They conjure negative emotions. blood, because we did state that these Abheski are humans, like literal humans. So I'm assuming they bleed like us. So blood being bad, you can that's a very simple, basic sort of take in terms of color theory or color symbolism. So I wouldn't say that that's mad off. And black and white are just like, they're basically non-colors really. So I think color wise, I wouldn't be like, it's a big problem. I think the generality with the Orzelk antlers is a great call. Like, that's really cool. And it's like animalistic, like non-human, that sort of thing, paints in metaphors like that. I think that's really cool. So with a little bit of tweaking, I think it can quickly be made into something that's in universe. But as you point out, the big thing would be we need a script, which we will one day get to.
In China, red has different cultural connotations often.
No, sure. And the same way, like in, I think it's in Japanese, white is associated with death, but we associate black with death here. So I'm not saying like it's a human universal that.
So I think it's a valid question, and it could end up being quite different.
No, absolutely, it could. But if one were to say like we have to take these posters and run with them and make them in universe, I don't think it would be a massive problem to be like, yeah, in universe, red equals negativity. That's
it's not a huge stretch if we have that to come up with a justification for it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But yeah, good comment. I like it.
Yeah. So as regards Abheski religion, there isn't a single common religion the way that we kind of think of in the West, of that this country is X and this country is Y, or this culture is this religion, or whatever. There are various competing religions and faiths and cults and things. So there's quite an array. There's probably some kind of commonality, that they come from a similar background, but it's not like, the overwhelming Christianity of the Western world in general. It wouldn't be anything like that. And as regarding the Urselk are native to Hoitan specifically. So they're not actually that common a motif in the history of Abheski art, because they're from a different region. Obviously, there's a bit of it the way that fantastical and foreign creatures were included in kind of medieval European heraldry and things.
Like snails.
Like snails, yes. Before snails were introduced into Europe in the 1500s.
Sure.
But yeah, so it wouldn't be as ingrained a thing as that, because they're a little bit more foreign, a little bit more exotic as a creature. But, I think I did say that I like the idea of other animals having antlers. So maybe antlers is still a viable route for that reason.
On the religion thing, I don't think you've written much about the religiosity of these people.
I don't think I've written anything, yeah.
Yeah, I had just taken that to be that they're all a bunch of atheists. Maybe because, again, like there's a lot of Soviet stuff going on here. At least I think there's a lot of Soviet stuff going on here. And I kind of associate atheism with that vibe. Not saying that to be an atheist, you have to be like a Soviet or a communist or whatever. But there was periods of time. It was in the USSR where it was an atheistic state. Is that correct? Am I remembering my history correct?
I think so. Yeah. It seems likely.
So I think I just had assumed that they were atheists, and I guess I had assumed that the Erthani and stuff would be the people who have like nature gods and things like that, because they seem to be more in touch with the more down to earth, literally, than the Abheski.
Down to river.
So I wonder, is that a thing you would ever like double down on, that there is no religion? Because because it's the idea of like I always find it a little bit weird when people talk about being atheist in like the before times, in Middle Ages, because it always feels to me like that's not an option. It's like religion is as real as gravity for like a pre-science people, and the idea of being atheist in that thing is just not. It's absurd. No one would ever think that. But then in a post-scientific sort of sense, the idea of atheism kind of sprung out, And these people, the Abheski, seem to be like post-scientific. They're like they're modern. They have like industry, etc., etc. They seem to have sciences, all that sort of jazz. So you could do a thing where they are just like, they have shunned religion. Thoughts? Yay, nay?
No, they do have religions. And as regards what you're saying about the Soviet thing, bear in mind that that's very much the countercurrent. It's not the dominant cultural idea.
Cross culturally, or with respect to
in Abhesk.
Sure, yeah.
They do have religions, but they're a little bit more kind of personal. They're not as necessary to the public sphere of life, and people can practice different ones, and they don't have a huge influence on kind of state affairs or anything like that.
There isn't a temple in every town. There's a temple in every living room.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, like there would be like temples and places of worship and meeting houses and things as well. But that would just be, it wouldn't be analogous to how we experience religion in public life.
We had friends in the family when I was younger who were Hare Krishnas. Dad did some building work for them. Again, like 20, 30 years ago, whatever it was. No, not 30 years, 20 plus years ago. And they invited us to a kind of like, I guess it was some sort of feast, some sort of celebration, Hare Krishna celebration. And they were like, come around to the house. And I'm not religious, and I gave up on religion when I was like first confession sort of age. It just wasn't for me. But I really enjoyed the whole idea of like, we're not going to a church. It's just like we have a shrine in the house. Everyone brings drums. We sing a little bit. It's all great crack. And then we eat some really healthy vegetarian food. Like it was really great vibes. The idea of like, it's a home thing, and the idea of like, like hospitality and inviting people into your home, and socially mandated way of keeping connected with your neighbors, which I think is incredibly important in the modern world, given that we're so disconnected from one another in meat space. I think it's so cool that it's just like, every so often there's another feast and everyone gathers and they just worship at home in their own home. And then that like strips away the sort of toxic elements that can arise out of centralized religions and that sort of jazz. I thought it was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And the smells, because of like, again, the vegetarian food just had a very particular smell to it. I don't know what spices they were using or whatever, but it was just like, it stuck with me. And then the smell of the incense, and it was just wonderful. I absolutely loved it. And there was a time where I was like, if I'm going to be religious, I'm going to be Hare Krishna, because this is cool. And then I realized, just again, like I said, religion was not for me. So I remained a smelly atheist. But yeah. But anyway, tangent alert. You have something here from Jamie Gilson. Let's get this ship back on track.
So this came up in the live chat from the last episode. I held and hold the position that vowels are pretty fake.
I love the way you phrase it. I think it's great. Like, I'm fully on board with you. I know what you mean, but I love that you phrase it as they're fake.
And like, I have trouble like distinguishing vowels in a way that I don't with consonants. Consonants are much kind of easier to distinguish. Yeah. And even if they're ones that I'm not natively familiar with, I can pick up on them. I can pay attention and figure out how to distinguish between them in a way that I think is much, much more difficult for me with vowels.
Yeah, you're not the only one.
But Jamie Gilson in last episode's live chat said, I took a psycholinguistics class at uni, and the consonant versus vowel thing is actually rooted in how humans process the audio. We hear consonant distinctions as discrete, based on which language we heard from childhood, but vowels are heard as spectral. So there is kind of a spectrum there. And that totally makes sense. That totally makes sense, because like, whether your tongue is on your teeth or on your palate is a little bit more cut and dry than whether your lips are rounded or not, or how far forward or back your tongue is. That's much more of a kind of a spectral, continuous process. So yeah, I am justified by psycholinguistics.
I'm sorry if you thought that you weren't justified, because you're dead right. Like, I don't know anyone who thinks the opposite of you do. I didn't realize that there was a psycholinguistical reason for it, although that would make sense if everyone thinks this. But I think I brought it up in the last show, but just to worth reiterating, I think about them, I think of vowels like a slide, and I think of consonants like stair steps. Like, there's a very clear divide between each like level, each segment. Whereas vowels, it's just a smooth gradient, and it's sometimes it can be really hard to see what's going on, to hear what's going on. Vowels are awful. In general, my take is that anything in linguistics that begins with V is terrible. Verbs, vowels, valency, all of that is just awful, and I hate it. Vowels are awful. They're just...
Vocalization.
Maybe not vocalization. That's fine. I'm okay with that. Not okay with verbs. I'm so with David J. Peterson is outspoken in his mocking hatred of verbs, but I'm totally with him. Like, verbs are just like nouns. Sorry, another tangent. Nouns are so discrete, right? Nouns, like there's a very, very small amount of things that nouns do, and you just kind of like go through the list and bang it out and make up your nouns. You're done. But verbs are like, if anything can be conveyed using verbs. They're like the set of stuff that verbs can convey is just massive and unwieldy, and I hate it so much. I wish verbs were fake.
But yet you used a verb. How interesting.
I know. Well, sure, we need to. I will endeavor to not use verbs for the rest of the show. I will just speak in infinitives and nominalize everything. And we'll see how that goes. Okay, are we at the end of follow-up?
I think that is follow-up complete.
Woo! Let's do some world billing.
Let's do some world billing. World billing. So, today we have more documentation. Today we have another document concerning the insurrection in Lansk.
Oh, okay, yeah. So this is continuing on from where we left off?
Yeah.
What's the last thing we talked about? We talked about the ongoing problems in Lansk. The brewing, yeah.
That's the last one.
Okay, cool.
Readers, you will by now have heard the joyous news that the insurrection in Lansk has been quelled. With order restored against the current of anarchy and agitation, all honest Abheski will doubtless celebrate this victory. However, it is our unfortunate duty to advise your joy be tempered, as solemn news and shocking details of the affair become known to the world outside the rebels' barricades. The action to liberate the occupied district was undertaken at night to minimize the harm inflicted upon the innocent citizenry imprisoned beneath the cruel yoke of the agitators' violence. A joint force of municipal bailiffs and marines detached from the Timar and Eltian companies struck at several points on the district's perimeter. Upon gaining this foothold, they quickly sought out the ringleaders of the self-styled Lansk Popular Executive, based on intelligence given by loyal and lawful citizens within the barricades, who at great personal risk passed this information to the outside world. Some among the agitators were quick to flee at the first sign of trouble, retreating to vessels docked on the river and casting off under the aegis of Erthani ensigns. Those who remained behind did not give up their gains easily. In fierce fighting along the riverside docks, Chief Bailiff Abarin Einthoff was slain alongside several of his most loyal men. Seeing their tyranny crumble before them, many agitators burned large parts of the district, caring not for the cruelty it would inflict on the population. Several streets of apartments and workshops were reduced to rubble and ash, killing many unfortunate citizens and leaving others without home or workplace. Even the batteries held by the rebels were turned against the district, inflicting particularly grave damage to the historic old tower. Fleeing citizens, finally able to escape the barricades, were welcomed by bailiffs and municipal aid in the surrounding districts. Many of these souls have been directed to new temporary lodgings in the Tamar Company Depot, where the resources of that enterprise have been generously set aside for their care. The disturbing details of life within the district are now coming to light as these sorry refugees can freely tell of the horrors that agitation inflicts. The alleged aid provided by the Irthani was seized at once by the cabal of anarchists leading the rebellion, while the common citizens starved. Children were forced to pick for morsels among refuse piles, which gathered at every corner and spilled out of every gutter. One mother told us how, lacking any other means to feed her family, she caught and cooked rats who, emboldened by the deplorable filth of the district, would elsewise have preyed upon her infants. Violent gangs enforcing no law other than their own petty caprice and venal urges not only ruled the night, but made a terror of the daytime. Failure to obey the dictates of the popular executive resulted in reprisals, including public executions of horrific brutality that decency will not permit us to reprint in these sheets. Though we rejoice that the misrule of the agitators has come to an end, it is nonetheless a sad end to a sad tale. The true extent of the damage inflicted upon the people of Lansk cannot yet be accounted. Those agitators who escaped justice shall be sure to strike again, and all lawful Abheski must ever be watchful for the stormfront of anarchy. Meosphere Pump Broadsheet, preprint manuscript prepared ahead of the operation to crush the Lansk insurrection.
Oh, that's dope. That's dope. The last line, return of the last line gut punch. Nice. Nice. Oh, this is cool. This is monumental. The Lance has been saved. The good guys won. All is well in the world. And every single word here is entirely truthful and not embellished or isn't subterfuge.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
We're a trustworthy news source.
Exactly. I know I usually do the thing. Actually, no. Let's stick to the format. Summarize, give whatever context you think is needed, then I'll go through my points.
So the Meosphere Pump broadsheet is a sort of pamphlet newspaper distributed in the city of Meosphere. And it's called Pump, as in like a water pump where people would gather to exchange news. I was trying to think of like a fitting generic name for a newspaper, but not one that we tend to actually use in the real world, like, Meosphere Herald or something. And I thought, people would gather around water pumps and exchange news and exchange gossip, so that would be a sensible name for a newspaper to take.
But one of my questions was like, what the hell is a pump doing? What the hell is Pump doing here? That's really cool. I enjoy that. Do you want to hear an embarrassing story of a whoopsie that previous Edgar made?
Yes, nearly always.
Involving newspapers.
Okay.
We were doing English class. I think I must have been about 12, like first year of secondary school. And we had some sort of assignment that I guess fall under the broader gamut of like media literacy. We talked about like broadsheets and what's the other ones? The non-broadsheets? Tabloids, and learned about those, etc., etc. And I remember to this day this because it burns me in the soul. One of the questions on like the test was kind of like who reads broadsheets and who reads tabloids, which looking back on it is a very flawed question, right?
Yeah.
But that was the question put forward. And my answer to this, Bill, right? And I hate myself. I was 12, so please forgive me, internet. My answer was educated people read broadsheets and non-educated people read tabloids, which is obviously a horrific thing to say. And if anything, I would consider myself an educated person, but I love engaging in tabloid-like content, as we said at the start. So, I'm not even an exemplar of this sort of stance. But anyhow, so I said that anyways. We had a sort of debrief class after this test, and the teacher came in and was like, you all did terribly. I expect a lot better from everyone. And she took the whole class to read out our responses and berate us.
What the hell?
Yeah, because it was really bad. Like, I was just stupid in my answer, but some people were kind of like, the answer to a question was like a slur, for example. Like, it was
right.
It needed to be called out, really, and I just happened to have been caught in the firing line. And so she read out my thing, and I went, oh my god! I had to stand up. I went bright red. I was like, what's going on? And if anything, at the time, I was like, but this is obvious, right? Like, why are you telling me I'm wrong? If you're like a banker or a businessman, you read the broadsheet, and if you're this past that you're thinking again, but if you're like a stay-at-home mom who didn't go to college, you read the tabloid, right? I was like, what's wrong with this? And it was never explained to me. I wish she like, in berating me, would have been like, and here is why you're wrong, not just like, let me berate this 12-year-old and leave it at that. And it's only through like reflection afterwards and kind of like, I don't know, beginning to read newspapers as I got older that I realized, oh wait, no, this is entirely stupid. But I still remember that feeling, that sort of like the bottom of my stomach falling out when she kind of goes, who answered this to this question? And I had to stand up and I was like, oh god, it was not great, not a fun time. But really, I deserved it. Like, come on, like, uneducated people read tabloids. That's the stupidest thing to say. Stupidest thing to say.
Not great.
But again, I was 12. It's 12, right?
It doesn't sound like great pedagogy either.
No, and like we opened up, that question is so flawed. Like, it's such a stupid question because it's like, I don't know, humans is the answer to both. Like, humans read broadsheets and humans read tabloids. That's who reads them. Any more specificity is just ridiculous to ask.
Horses read magazines.
Precisely, yeah. I'm not sure if there's a reference there, but sure.
No, there's not.
But yeah, so when you said the broadsheet stuff, I began thinking of that one English class. Oh, the pain of it all. The pain of it all. Okay, sorry, I interrupted. Continue with what you were saying.
So that's what the Meerster Pump broadsheet is. And yeah, so this column, this article gives details of an action to crush the Lance Popular Executives rebellion. How the municipal bailiffs, so the kind of the forces of the city itself, and forces taken from the Tamar and Elkian companies, banded together to end the insurrection. The damage that was caused during the fighting, and also the horrors and violence that occurred underneath the control of the rebellion. Mm-hmm. And the regrettable death of Chief Bailiff Baron Einthoff during the fighting is notable here. And how the rebels turned their cannon on the district itself when they realized they were losing, and even did damage to the historic Old Tower, one of the oldest spires in the city. And it ends with a call for vigilance against the tide of labour agitation that is currently washing over the whole Abheski culture. And the last line here tells us that this is a preprint manuscript prepared ahead of the operation, before the operation, to crush the Lansk insurrection.
So let's start there, right? Because I'm obviously going to like interrogate that. My initial gut thing is like, oh, that's terrible. Like, this is them being sneaky and deceptive. Mm-hmm. But now that I've had a chance to think about it for a second, that doesn't necessarily it doesn't necessarily mean that everything in this piece is incorrect, right? Like, this, I get that it is, but this could be the state of affairs. And, you need to print a paper at 9 in the next morning. It would be kind of like wise to prepare different drafts depending on an outcome. So they might also have we're or a sort of obituary to Bowron to Eintov. He died fighting to liberate
Died doing what he loved.
He died doing what he loved, fighting to liberate the barricades or whatever section of the city. But we were unfortunately able to take it back. You know, that sort of thing. So
Sure.
it doesn't necessarily imply wickedness at all. It just kind of it can be taken as no different than a politician preparing two different speeches based on whether or not they win an election or lose. Which I think is interesting, and it kind of leaves it up to the reader to be like, how do you feel about these people? Do you think they're trustworthy or do you think they're not? It's up to you. I like that. I think it's cool.
Well, for the context here, the Mearsphere Pump broadsheet is owned by the Tamar Company.
Oh yeah, like obviously knowing what we know, this is obviously them being sneaky and being deceptive and things. But if you were to just drop this on someone without any context, they could take it either way.
There's plausible deniability if this was ever to become public, I suppose.
Correct, yeah. But I think that's cool. And it's been a while since we've had that gut punch last line where it makes you think about everything that you've just read. It's cool. It's very, very good. I guess if I can launch into some... No, let's jump around a little bit. I usually do it in order, but I like to jump around. Chief Bailiff Bowron to Eintov. He's dead. I'm assuming this was in response to my saying we should have some deaths, Bill.
Partially.
So the question is, why him?
In universe?
Both.
Because he wasn't playing ball the way the Tamar Company wanted.
Oh, wait, so the Tamar Company murdered him?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't get that at all. What? Wow.
That's how they had details of his death before the action.
Of course. I completely missed that. That makes perfect sense. They're going to murder Bowron to Eintov. Remind us again why he's not playing ball. What's he doing that the companies are unhappy with? Oh, this is everything, Bill, right now.
So a few episodes ago, I wrote, Dajag Tashensha wrote a letter to him, offering support because he had not been swift enough in putting down the rebellion in his own city. And for his failure to deal with this in a way that the business wanted, he's going to be taken out.
Wow!
They're going to use the cover of taking back the district to mask their attempt to murder him. So his loyalists in the municipal bailiffs.
So this brings up the other question I was going to ask is why now? Because if Bowron has been not cutting the muster, I'm assuming, for a while, and this situation lanced, as I'm assuming, has been going on for a bit. Like, because your last letter was kind of like, here's what life is, implying that like a new normal kind of had set in. So
sure.
why did the companies only move now to remove Bowron and to return things back to normal?
They got tired of waiting for it to be resolved, and they needed to take action. You know, for kind of like, I mean, things take time to occur, and I don't know what all of the factors in play necessarily are, but you know, things don't happen instantly, and this situation has been ongoing. They no longer want it to be ongoing, so they're going to strike at the rebellion, put it down, and while they're there, they're also going to clean house and take out Bowron to Eintov so it can be replaced with someone more willing to work towards the goals that the companies want.
So does that mean that they were hoping that the situation would just resolve itself at the start? If so, how would you see that occurring? I mean, I guess I can think of like loyal Abheski people behind the barricades doing their own kind of mini revolution and letting the populace try and sort the situation out as opposed to bringing in the troops. That's the only way I can think about it, because like the only people who want that situation to remain would be the the anarchists, you know. So how were you thinking about it there?
Put the question to me again. I didn't quite follow.
Sorry, that was a little bit rambling. Were they hoping at the start to just have the situation resolve itself?
Well, I mean, I guess they were hoping for the bailiffs to take some more kind of decisive action.
Right. Okay. Oh, right. I see. So the lower downs couldn't get the job done, and so the companies are like, "We're done waiting. Send in the troops. Send in the big lads. Let's get it done."
They're not lower downs so much as they're just a different thing.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. They're not like. I mean, like nominally and you know, formally, they're not lower downs. They're the city authorities, and the companies are a private enterprise, are private enterprises.
So Group A was not getting it done. So Group B goes, time to come in and sort it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
And you know, just like stuff takes time to happen. Things don't all happen straight away.
Yeah, exactly. Jumping around a little bit, possibly, how do I want to address this? Okay, I'll just go in order, roughly. Quote, "It is our unfortunate duty to advise your joy be tempered as solemn news and shocking details of the affair become known to the world outside the rebels' barricades. I'm not sure if you meant it like this, but it sounds like a real trash clickbaity sort of opening.
Yes, it is. It is a bit tabloidy, I suppose.
It is a bit tabloidy, a bit for the uneducated people, you know. I want to say again, I do not hold this position. I was 12. Please forgive me. My brain had not yet fully formed. The other thing is, I suppose there's just a list of things I underlined here that I'd like to get your take on as to the veracity of these claims. Like, are they actually fact or are they propaganda? So, for example, you say here, the action to liberate the occupied district was undertaken at night to minimize the harm inflicted upon the innocent citizenry imprisoned beneath the cruel yoke of the agitators' violence. Now, that sounds like propaganda in that the agitators were being violent. That seems like something people who like took over a section of city would be like. Or it also could be demonizing these people. And I'm not sure which way it is. So what is the... can you tell us about the actual state of affairs? What is IRL? What's happening? Or in fiction? In IFL? In fiction life?
In real fiction, what is happening?
Exactly.
So, as regards the cruel yoke of the agitators' violence.
Yeah, correct. Are the agitators actually violent? Because I can see them needing to be violent to maintain their grip on the district. Or not, or people are just like, yeah, whatever, new dudes are in charge. Like, it can go both ways. I'd like to know which one is it.
There was violence that took place specifically and mostly at the beginning of the insurrection. Like they took over part of the city and people associated with the companies were killed, and there was fighting in which people died. The idea that there was like this kind of cruel brutality pervading every aspect of everyday life is not true.
Yeah, because I was thinking the last letter you wrote painted an image of kind of like, it's all very normal, you know?
Yeah.
There's not much jobs going about, but like, it's not like we're being hounded by military people.
Yeah. And, you know, there probably were cruel individuals who were reveling in the opportunity to, like, get power over others. There was almost certainly an element of that, but it wasn't the normal general state of affairs underneath or behind the barricades.
Loyal and lawful citizens within the barricades, I'm assuming that's a true statement. Like, the people in the occupied area would have also been like anti the agitators, and so that is a thing that exists. It's not like everyone within the occupied area was like, we love this.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah,
Right.
There were some within who were trying to get out from under it,
and I'm assuming that's how they got. Because at some point, I don't have it underlined. You talked about how we got. Oh yeah, who at great personal risk passed this information to the outside world. So I'm assuming there were people who were like, I don't want the agitators to be here. I'm going to leak information out. That's how you can kind of begin to form intelligence and form a strategy to get in there and liberate things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even the batteries held by the rebels were turned against the district, inflicting grave damage to the historic old tower. Now, again, we can read this a couple of different ways. One, agitators are savages and they love blowing up cultural stuff. Two, we're going to blow up a bunch of cultural stuff in trying to take back the thing and killing Bowrin. So we need to try and paint it that the agitators did it so no one will be angry at us. Again, what's the state of affairs?
Yeah, it's to cover up that they're going to use airships and fire batteries from their own airships into the district.
Oh, they're doing an aerial assault, not a ground assault. Or both.
The Marines and stuff are going in on foot, yeah.
Okay.
Although I guess probably some of them will be delivered by air as well to like seize specific locations. But that's there to cover, if anything does get damaged, that it was, the rebels, they turned on their own when they realized theirs was a lost cause.
Sure. And I suppose, you could also be like, strategically, if you're an anarchist here, you might be like, well, it's a losing battle, so we're just going to wreck the gaff to make the reacquisition of this asset not so wonderful for the Abheski. You can totally see that happening as well. But I guess because it was printed ahead of time,
Scorched earth.
Scorched, that's a much more elegant way of putting it. Once again, I burn 100 words where you could just use 2. I am verbose, this is my lot in life. Quote, the alleged aid provided by the Arthani was seized at once by the cabal of anarchists leading the rebellion while the common citizen starved. Again, I'm assuming this might actually be semi-true, except that it's seized with a means of redistributing evenly. Not seized and the anarchists get fat while everyone dies.
Well, like I said when I was talking about the brewer in that episode, there was probably a bit of corruption and a bit of ill behavior and theft and stuff going on among the supply committee. But yeah, it wasn't as simple as it's being presented here, that the LP was just taking everything and cared not for the plight of everyone else. There was definitely mishandling of things. But no, this is very selective and a very particular perspective to the point of being actually a lie.
Quote, she caught and cooked rats, end quote. Can you cook a rat, Bill?
Me?
I mean, no, let me rephrase that. Of course one can cook a rat. If one cooks a rat, is it safe? Because I'm thinking like the act of cooking should like kill off any bad stuff the rat might have. Can we eat rats? Can I just decide to eat a rat and then it's fine, like it's grand?
I mean, like, it's probably not great. But yeah, I mean, it's meat.
Great in terms of health or great in terms of like enjoyability?
I would say either.
Okay, yeah.
No, I can't imagine why it wouldn't be. Like, people eat pigeons and dogs and stuff, so.
Yeah, but I guess, I don't know what the case is with pigeons, but I guess we see rats as being disease vectors for all sorts of nastiness in a way that like dogs aren't.
Yeah.
I just wonder
it might not be great in like a public health thing if it was common, but what they're saying here, they're presenting it as a horrible last resort.
And also, I would imagine that whole bit is probably made up as well, because you also say, would elsewise have preyed upon her infants? Like, come on. That's almost certainly not happening, that a mother is going to eat her children. Like, come on.
No. The rats.
Oh, the rats would have preyed upon her.
Emboldened by the deplorable filth of the district, would elsewise have preyed upon her infants. She had to eat the rats, or else like they would have attacked her children.
That makes no sense at all. Just kill the rats. Like, what? But I guess
that's what she did.
That whole thing. No, kill and not eat. Just kill. But yeah, that whole thing seems hyperbolic to me. Go on.
She had to eat them because there was no other food, is what they're saying.
Right. But as we've established, there may have been other food. That's all a lie. Like, what I'm saying is that entire line is a lie. Correct?
Yeah.
Then we're on the same page.
But like, it's not transparently a lie to all readers.
Yes, yeah. I mean, sure, but that's the whole shtick of this entire thing. It's designed to not be transparently a lie. Final point on my end. Quote, failure to obey the dictates of the popular executive resulted in reprisals, including public execution of horrific brutality that decency will not permit us to reprint in these sheets. I really like that because I think sometimes the most gory interpretation of the thing is the one that we come up with ourselves. Like, had you just been like, oh, they guillotined them or hung them or whatever, you'd be like, boring. But if you go, oh, it was so bad I couldn't possibly even mention it here, your brain automatically goes to like, they ate you alive or something like that.
Yeah.
So I love that. I think that's really cool. It's very evocative. Fair play.
Thank you.
All right. That's my points. Have I missed anything? This was great.
This thing about the agitators fleeing under the aegis of Earthani vessels. Again, they're getting their excuses in early. And also they can use that as a pretext if they ever need to say there was agitation later. They can say, oh well, there was agitators who escaped from Lansk. No.
Was there anything noteworthy about the line under the aegis of the Earthani ensigns?
Not particularly, just I mean, to whip up public opinion against the Earthani, I suppose.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
And yeah, like as I said, this was written ahead of time, so that's they've no idea of knowing if anyone will do that, but they're going to say that they did, so they can use that information later.
Yeah, makes sense.
There's also the sort of fascistic thing of your opponents at once being strong and weak. That they fled at the first sign of trouble, and also they fought fiercely and destroyed their own district.
That is a common trope, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's a very common trope. Yeah.
There probably were public executions of some kind carried out by the LPE of those who were kind of collaborators or especially at the start, as I said, the violence against people associated with the companies and things. So that is probably there's a grain of truth there, exaggerated.
Yeah.
I tried to use weather and wind-based analogies for instead of saying things like rising tide. I know I said that in speech, but in this extract, the current of anarchy and the storm front of anarchy. I felt that was more appropriate to use kind of weather-based things than naval thing or maritime sea things.
Very
because
good.
They're an air based. That is their chosen medium.
That is the sort of thing you're going to need to think way more about as we get deeper into the conlang thing. So that is good that you're beginning to think about it. That's awesome. Yeah. I didn't pick up on that at all. In fact, I took the Stormfront thing to just be evocative, kind of like, actually, I shouldn't have done this, but like Nazi ideology. Isn't the whole storm, there's something to do with storms and Nazis. Is that correct? Stormfront?
Stormtroopers?
No, not stormtroopers, but in actual, unless there were actual stormtroopers under the Nazis, which I doubt.
Yeah. And the
wait, what?
The original paramilitary of the Nazi Party was the Sturmabteilung.
Oh, you're being serious? Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were just being like the Star Wars thing.
No. Stormtroopers was an actual thing.
Oh, and isn't there a neo-Nazi publication that Storm something or other?
There's the white nationalist website Stormfront.
That's it. So that's wwhy I thought you were using that language there to invoke, like, these agitators. They're actually kind of like fascistic, do-badders. Ability to English villains, exactly. But I know. But I had that. Do-badders.
Unironically, I love that.
Listen, it's very hard to think about what you're going to say in a second, but also say what you want to say in the moment. Things go wrong every so often. So that's why I thought you were using the weather analogy.
Gotcha.
There. But that's cool. I enjoy that. Keep that up. We'll need lots of it going forward.
Yeah.
All right.
I think that's everything.
Cool. R.I.P. Chief Bailiff Bowern to Eintov, you dick.
Well,
he may not be dead. Oh,
well, I mean, like, you know,
He
this is all pre-print. Who knows what's going to happen?
who knows? Oh, that's very interesting. I like it. This is good. Bill's first death may be a fake out.
Yeah, I mean that would be pretty weak of me, but yeah.
Well, but again, I mean, the Baron to Eintov is hardly what I would call a central character here, so I wouldn't say it was weak there. It'd be weak if you were like, I'm threatening to kill Ned Stark and then don't do it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, kill Ned Stark for dramatic effect. Whereas if Bowern lives or dies, meh, I'm fine. I'm not going to be like, oh, this author's so weak or whatever. Excellent work, Bill. I love it. Shall we do some language?
Let's do some lang billing.
Conlanging, the Abheski Lang. Let's do this. Folks, this is going to be a little bit difficult to do purely in audio form. We're going to do our best to be as accommodating to audio listeners as humanly possible, but it might be better if y'all watch this as opposed to just listen to this. So I am recording my screen here, and that'll be included in the YouTube version of the show, and it'll be linked, the recording or the YouTube clip will be linked in the audio version. Might be worth checking this out because it's a little bit hard to do conlanging just without the ability to write anything. So, Bill, here's what I propose we're going to do. Last time we talked, you gave us all the established canonical names bar 3. And I have been analyzing those, transcribing them into IPA, and trying to figure out patterns of what's going on, right?
Right.
Over the past while. So with that done, we should start trying to build up our phonological inventory. Specifically, we should try and figure out how all of these things came to be. So we're looking at doing a protolang here. Just, again, we said in the last show, we're going to do naturalistic conlang, so we need to figure out what came before to be able to derive what's modern, right?
Okay.
You sound skeptical. Please don't be skeptical about that.
I don't understand that method at all.
Okay, so elaborate. What don't you understand?
The point of it.
So the point of it is to get internal consistency, right? Because if you one can conlang synchronically, right, without looking at where it came from. That is a totally valid way of doing it. It's difficult. I've learned over the years that I used to do it this way, and it is more difficult and it's more hassle than it's worth, I think. Doing it historically by setting an arbitrary starting point and evolving forward from that, you will have an internal consistency to your language, which is important.
And how do you make sure that the protolang is internally consistent then?
Two things. One, you don't, for the most part. And two, I guess based on your knowledge of linguistics. Like, the idea is that you just need to set a starting point. You don't care what came before the protolang. You just set a starting point based on your knowledge of linguistics to make sure you don't do anything mad stupid. But you go, that's the starting point, and you evolve forward from there. Otherwise, you're in
Why does the protolang not need to be consistent?
I mean, because you are going to build the structures out of it. So, for example, if we just non-phonologically, if you might be like, why doesn't the protolang need to have a consistent set of like pluralization strategies, for example? The idea being, we're going to derive those. Like, they're going to be non-existent in the protolang, and we'll derive them. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of the stuff won't be there to be consistent. We're going to make it happen as we go forward. It's kind of like the G-plates thing, right? Where it's like, remember when we were doing the plate tectonics and moving continents around? We started with just like, draw a supercontinent. Doesn't matter how it came to be. Doesn't matter how it got there. Like, obviously it would have evolved into its state as a supercontinent, like through, first the tiniest little bit of land appears and that grows and grows and then other land grows and then eventually supercontinent. But like, the act of doing that doesn't really inform what the first supercontinent should be. You just kind of draw it and use that as your 0 point and move forward. And again, the process provides the consistency. Oh my
It
God.
just seems like, oh, we can't be arbitrary, but we're going to be arbitrary here instead.
We can't be arbitrary. Well, okay. We can't be arbitrary in the modern lang, or at least we shouldn't be arbitrary in the modern lang. And I need to stress that we're not being arbitrary in a proto-lang. Like, I won't permit us to just put down whatever sounds just cause. Like, they're going to have to follow, like, established linguistic norms, but how exactly they got to be is not relevant to us, right? We're just going to, like, set a zero date, and then we follow it through from there. If you don't believe me, right? If you don't believe me, you just need to trust me that this is kind of
I'm going. Oh yeah, look, we're going to do it this way. I'm just saying I don't get it.
Yeah, but okay. At the risk of turning this entire section into convince Bill that proto-lang is cool, do you see the analogy? Hold on, but do you see the analogy with G plates? Where we just created a supercontinent. We just said we don't.
I see the analogy. It just doesn't ring true for me.
Right, but can you see the way in G plates how it was extremely useful to set it? Just put down a supercontinent. Don't care where it came from, and in evolving it forward, we're going to create a really naturalistic feeling modern world. Like and and hopefully in G plates you saw that process arise. It's the exact same thing, you know. The process of evolving is the important thing, not how we pick our initial state.
Okay.
And I'm sure people in chat and in comments can give better arguments than I can on the fly. So listen to those folks as well. And I will say as well, like the thing is, because you've been doing it synchronically, so without a view on history, it's going to be very hard to convey this to you. But you're going to have to trust me. There are inconsistencies in your words, shall we say, where it's kind of like I'm really struggling to see why certain sounds would appear here and not here. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
Because it's like it didn't come from an initial state. And had it come from an initial state, you wouldn't be able to see that. You wouldn't be able to see those inconsistencies, you know, which we're actually going to talk about in a second. So that's what we're going to do. Are we all happy?
Yeah, no, like I'm willing to do it this way. I just don't get it.
Sure. As long as you're willing, we're totally fine. And hopefully you'll see over the course of how we do this, you might be like, at some point, like what happened to me, Biblaridian was a huge factor in making me a believer in the naturalistic conlang method. The penny will drop at some point and you'll be like, this is really useful thinking about it this way. So hopefully you'll have the same realization I did as we go through this. Okay. We should start. Oh my God. This is good though. This is good. I think we should, you said in the previous recording that vowels are fake, right? Mm-hmm. The implication being there that perhaps we can treat them a little bit more squishy than we can with consonants. There's more wiggle room available there. So I think we should probably start looking at how vowels came to be before we look at consonants. And then we'll wrap it all together and come up with a schema of how your sounds evolved. Specifically, I've been preparing, trying to deal with your nasal vowels. You had mentioned about nasal vowels, how they might be cool. Mm-hmm. I agree. Gets us out of kind of like stock Slavic territory a little bit. That's kind of cool. I like it. So we should look at that because I'm baffled by what you've got going on here, and we need to try and figure out how to do it. So I'll outline for the listeners the environments that these crop up in or don't, and then I have 3 or 4 ideas of how we might deal with this. Bill and I will have a talk about which he likes, which he doesn't. Hopefully one of them he will. I'll go away, implement it, etc. Rinse and repeat. Every month we'll do the same thing. Got it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Okay,
right. So there is only one canonical instance of a nasal vowel, and that is in the name dajag to, and I can't do this, impossible, so shen-sha. Dajag to shen-sha. That is nasalized, Bill had mentioned, yeah?
Yeah.
That's the only instance that crops up. This is problematic in the sense of I would be very reluctant to say that your language has one nasal vowel and that nasal vowel is we should have a more natural feeling set. And it's problematic as well because usually when it comes to evolving nasal vowels, a la French, you have a nasal coda, right? So you'd have something like shen with an N there. And then that nasal coda passes on its nasality to the vowel. So you get shen, shen, and then the N is lost. That's how you went from French from, I think, back in the day, it was vent, then it went vent, and then it went vent. So the N passed, in fact, I will type this for people. Vent in French went to vent, where the N passed its nasality onto the vowel. Onto the vowel. Then that nasal dropped out, so you went vot, and then the T dropped out, and you're left with modern French va. That's the stock way of generating nasal vowels. A following nasal nasalizes the previous vowel. You with me?
Okay, yeah. And that's what you have here for idea 1, Rhinoglottophilia.
Oh no, not at all. But we'll get there. We'll get there. We're still at the analyzing words. So my immediate thought was we'll just do that, and it even matches with your romanization because you romanized Shensha as that, if I recall correctly, where you have an N in there, Shensha. You literally write the N. So the idea that at one stage there was an N there, but that dropped out and nasalized. Brilliant, absolutely wonderful. The problem is this conflicts entirely with other established words. So we also have this name here, Entlia, where the N is definitely there. You're not doing, again, this feckin' vowel, impossible in French, en. So you're not doing entlia. You're doing entlia, okay?
Yeah.
So to be consistent, we'd expect, if we're doing this nasal stuff, we'd expect entlia not to exist.
Sure.
We could pull some tricks, obviously, like it could be a compound word, etc. But in general, we would expect it not to be. Same thing with Eintov in Bauern te Eintov, R.I.P., the goat. We would expect that I, of diphthong, to nasalize in that environment because it's the exact same environment that's implied in Dajak Tashencha. Same thing with Benvin, it should be Bavin. Jensir te Hlarvin should be, oh God, that should be Jensir te Hlar with a nasal E in there. I can't do it. Something like that. And then Englan, again, should have 2 nasal vowels. So if I were to try and do the stock thing, we'd have nasal vowels everywhere and we'd be rewriting a lot of your words. So I don't think we can do the stock thing. Are you with me?
Oh, okay. Sure.
So I need to find some other bloody way of doing this, right? I have some ideas. I have 4 ideas. One of them is valid. The rest are bonkers. I just want to bring them up for
bonkers
for the sake of I don't know, just curiosity, I suppose. Idea number 1. Rhinoglottophilia. This is PS Bill, unless you have an extremely good reason, this is what you should pick. Just saying, because it is definitely the most useful. Rhinoglottophilia is this phenomenon where there's a affinity between glottal sounds and nasal sounds. Wikipedia says that apparently this crops up in some dialects of English where some people won't say Harvard, they'll say Harvard. They'll nasalize the A after the glottal H.
Gotcha.
Right? I don't understand why that's a phenomenon that occurs, but it is apparently. So we could pull this here, right? And I've written out the sound change here. We could have a vowel followed by a H, so a H in the coda position, and that becomes a long vowel or a short vowel. We can argue about that. So essentially a word like in Shensha, for example, you would actually have, I should type in IPA here, sorry. She with a H coda and then sha, right? That H causes this rhinoglottophilia and then it nasalizes this chap and then drops out. So we end up with sha. So we can then, using this method, you can selectively, anytime you're like, I would really like a nasal vowel here, you can just say in the Protolang, there was a H in coda position. You can just drop it in. And that will justify, if you look at this Lex list here, Dajag to Shensha will become exactly what you want it to be. Enhlia is unaffected because we could just say there's no H here. There's an N in coda position. Bauern to Eintov, ineffective. Eintov is totally fine. Benvin, also totally fine. Everything, all of your established canonical words are totally fine under this method, except for Naham Tevalbe. Because we have a H here.
Nanam.
It's become Naham. Or we could say that the H, because this H is in onset position, Naham, you could say it stays there. It could go Naham. It could just remain. It could do other fun things. Like, this is, I think, what I would advocate. You could have, imagine it started off as Naham, right? Naham Tevalbe. We don't need to worry about the valve. That doesn't come into the schema. H, we'll say it nasalizes the previous one. So Naham turns into Naham. And then we could say that H, because like the language maybe doesn't want the H to drop out there because you'd have two vowels in contact. We could say that H strengthens to a hum, an X there. So Naham.
Well, kind of like that.
Kind of
like that.
Good. And I think it's not that dissimilar. Naham Tevalbe, Naham Tevalbe.
Naham. Yeah.
That's not a radical change.
Quite like that.
Cool. Good. I would like if you would like this because the rest of the ideas are just curiosities and they don't really work. So that's, I think, the most suitable way. The thing I would like you to either decide now or think about is the exact realization of this. So if we again take Naham as our example, and just for the record for everyone here and Bill, I suppose, I'm just assuming that all these other consonants are proto. Like at some stage we might see like, is this M generated from somewhere else? Whatever. All we're doing is inquiring about the vowel and the H. Okay?
Sure.
Yeah. So everything else is still subject to change. Naham, this could go a number of different ways. This could be Naham, right? The previous vowel nasalizes. Naham goes to Naham. Or you could totally see it doing both vowels. Oh my God, come on. Sorry. Both vowels nasalize, so Naham. You could do but like that. You could even justify it the other way around. You could have it that the following vowel, Naham, you could have it like that. So you can have proto Naham. It can go to Naham, Naham, or Naham. It can do a whole bunch of things there. So maybe give that a think and or make a call now as to which one you could do. Because just to be absolutely clear here, in the case of Shensha, because this doesn't matter. So if we start off with Shensha as doing this, Shesha, and has a H in the coda,
Yeah.
we could say, number one rule, if the H is in coda, the previous vowel gets nasalized. Okay?
Right.
I don't have a nasal E, so I'm just going to call it an A for the sake, Bill. Please forgive me.
Gotcha. But if it's in onset, we can decide which way it goes.
Absolutely. There you go.
Gotcha.
So we can have one rule that ensures we get to Shensha and another rule to see what happens when it's in onset, or I would say actually intervocalically, in between two vowels.
Yeah.
It's probably a better way of defining it. So Shensha, or Shensha, no, that's not. Impossible. Matin. Shensha. It's such a horrible, I hate that sound. So we've that, we can lock in Shensha as being nasal. The question is here, right? So Naham, Naham, or Naham. No, Naham. Are you leaning towards any of these?
Well, I did like it with the h sound.
Yeah, we can totally do that. That can go in all of them as well. That's not relevant to all. What we're inquiring about the position of the nasal vowel.
Yeah. No. I think. Yeah, the previous vowel.
I mean, that is definitely makes for an easier rule.
Yeah.
It's just the one thing. Okay. Naham.
Yeah.
Naham.
No, but the.
Oh, sorry.
The shesha, you're changing the to an kind of.
Only because in how I pronounce or how I've typed.
Yeah, in how you pronounce it.
Oh, that's because I'm crap at pronouncing it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Apparently,
Because it's not really the same as impossible. It's more of a.
well, I did some research and tried to listen to French speakers educate people on how to pronounce the French vowels. Admittedly, obviously amateurs and not linguists, they could be wrong. But the vowel in the word matin and impossible is notated as a with a thing.
Grand.
Now, I could just be pronouncing it wrong, but I think...
I'm basing it only on what I'm hearing, not on any knowledge of French.
Sure. Either way, it doesn't actually matter. Like, our mispronouncing things doesn't actually impact what the language is doing. Do you know what I mean? It's just a case of pronounceability. Okay, right. So that's Rhinoglottophilia. I'm assuming based on your feedback there that this is cool. You think this is okay?
Yep.
Okay. So you can selectively go through and you can just be like, I have the word bill. No, I don't have the word bill. That won't work. I have the word patan. And you're like, oh boy, I'd really like that A to be a vowel. You'd simply put a H there, tan, and then we can use that to create the nasal vowel. Done.
Gotcha.
Cool. So you can selectively go through. Just real quick, I won't. If we've idea one locked in, I won't dwell on these because we'll be here till the cows come home. But just real fast for anyone who wants some extra ideas.
I do want to hear these other ones, definitely.
Okay. All right, well, we'll go slow then. So we have idea number 2, North Sea Germanic nasal spirant law number 1, right? This is a thing that happened with shock horror in the North Sea area Germanic languages, where if you had the combination vowel plus a nasal followed by a fricative, right? So something like, for example, if you had tans, if you had a word like tans, the nasal dropped out, leaving behind a nasal vowel. So it went, I think, if I'm correct, it went to tans. Okay?
Yeah.
Why? Only when there's a fricative after the nasal? I do not know. It occurred in the Germanic languages. I don't know why this is a thing. This is a poor choice for us because if you'll see on the spreadsheet, all this red, these are words that would need to be redesigned.
Yeah.
Because of this. And I was thinking this because, again, our only canonical example is Shensha. And I was like, oh my God, look at that. That's a vowel followed by nasal, followed by a fricative. Maybe this is the same thing, same environment as what was going on in the Germanic languages. But it doesn't do a good job for us, basically.
Sure.
Okay? Thoughts? Feelings?
Yes, here. Yes, here. Test driving. See. I mean, I wouldn't be... Yeah, we've changed quite a few words. Some of them I wouldn't mind, but I do prefer the first one, I think.
I mean, because the first one gives us maximum flexibility almost. And the only word it impacts is naham. And that's... Because you literally have no other H's. If I'm correct, let me just pop over to the words, control find. Oh! Oh no! Oh, don't tell me No, I'm fine, sorry. Control find. H. Yeah, you have Naham with a H, and then you have Bashin with a H, but that's just orthography. That's not a H there. That's a sh sound.
Yeah.
That is the only word that would be disturbed by our Rhinoglottophilia. So we should definitely do that. The idea number 3, North Sea Germanic nasal spirant law number 2. Trying to get this to be more applicable, I was like, well, maybe I could riff on what went on in the Germanic languages and say that if you have a vowel followed by a nasal, followed by a fricative, that is part of the same syllable, right? Specifically part of the same syllable, that all turns into a nasal vowel, which is, to be honest with you, a stretch. So that all, let me write that out. Tans, so something like tansta, a word like tansta, would eventually turn into something like tauta. Okay?
Yeah.
It's a bit of a stretch. It's not inconceivable. If the French vent went to va eventually, you kind of look at that and be like, Jesus, what in hell? This is of the same ilk. But again, it's not as flexible, and it also ruins Borsov T irens, because that would have to be Borsov T iron, and you'd lose the NS at the end. So you're radically changing that one word. Okay?
Yeah, not as keen on that one as the previous one.
Exactly. And the next one comes from this language, which I'm not going to pronounce. It's from Brazil. And this is just completely just a non-option, but it's a weird thing I just wanted to put out for people. Apparently this occurred. You have a nasal, right? A palatal nasal, so like the ñ in Spanish, followed by any vowel, so like ña, ñe, ñi, ñu, all that sort of jazz. What happened to that was the nasal passed its nasality onto the vowel, right? I'll copy this chap here. So we'll say ña went to ña, something like that. And then having done so, the nasality on the nasal dropped out and it just retained its palatal component. So it turned eventually into ya. It turns into a ya, which is just all sorts of mental. Like, that is so cool. And it would actually, it would mean that anytime we wanted a nasal on a vowel, we'd have to precede it with a palatal nasal. And oddly enough, it means that all of our sounds, all your words would be unaffected. Completely unaffected. But this seems so weird that maybe it's like it only happened once in this one place. And I feel uncomfortable being like, yeah, that's our strategy. Do you know what I mean? But I thought bringing it up was cool because imagine going.
But then I'd have to palatalize to shesha, wouldn't I? I'd have to make it to shesha.
No, you'd have in Protolang in shensha you could have s, so snye, sia, right? Is how I would envision it going, right? And that would turn into this whole nasal vowel thing, the nye, that would just turn eventually into that.
Sia.
Sia. Say that over again. Sia.
Yeah, I guess.
That is a clear strategy to sh. In fact, we probably will end up doing that. And the same thing with the sia. You'd get to shensha, no problem with that. But again, I just feel really weird about that. It's I think it's a fun thing. I don't know how applicable it is in the general sense.
Gotcha.
Rhinoglottophilia is the way home. So unless something, or the way forward, unless something in those other ideas came up when you were like, oh no, we have to do those, we should stick with that.
I liked idea 3, the nasal spirant law 2, the least. Okay. But yeah, I think rhinoglottophilia is the way to go.
Perfect. And it's also an established thing, so it's not me making up crap, which is always beneficial. Okay, final thing we need to sort out, and then I can go away and finish nasal vowels for you, is what's going to happen to these nasal vowels. Because as it currently stands, you have the ability, by throwing in a H in the coda, to have a nasal version of each of your vowels. Spoilers for later, you're going to need to have a 5-vowel system, at least in the Protolang, A, E, O, U. The vowels you're using basically imply that has to be the case, right? Which is totally fine. That means that by putting a H after each of those vowels, you have, in theory, created a situation where you have a nasal version of each of those vowels. I will not pronounce them because I can't. But do you see what I mean? Yeah?
Yeah. If you have 5 vowels and H's nasalize the preceding vowel, then you're going to have 5 nasal vowels as well.
Correct. Now the question is, idea 1 here, question is, if you have consonant, any consonant, followed by an I, followed by H, that goes to nasal I. We understand this, yeah? Yeah. Idea 1, do nothing. Just allow it that each of those can exist. So you have potentially a 10-vowel inventory. 5 standard vowels, A, E, O, U, and their nasal counterparts. That is a totally valid thing to do if you would like that. Okay? Idea number 1. Idea number 2, general tendency with nasal vowels is that high nasal vowels like to lower or can be lowered. Okay. That's a very natural thing to happen. So we could say that originally you had A, E, O, U being nasalized, but the nasalized E and the nasalized U, they lowered down to mid-vowel. So if I open up the IPA chart for you, just so we can have a look, Nasal E just drops down a step to nasal A. Nasal U drops down a step to nasal O. Okay? Thus reducing the number of vowels. Because it doesn't have to be this way, but in general, there's usually less nasal distinction than there is for oral vowels. That's kind of across linguistic, we tend to find that. So that's option number 2. Take your high ones, and over time, they get dropped down. So you end up with a system of and or or whatever. Just 3 nasals. Okay?
Okay.
You got it? And then idea number 3, again, following on from things that nasal vowels like to do, they also like to raise low vowels, right? So they like to drop high vowels, but raise low vowels. And that's what's occurring in option number 3. The high vowels, E and U, they drop to become mid, A and O. And the low vowel, A, it raises up to go to O.
So everything comes a bit more mid. Yeah.
Quite literally, your only nasal vowels will be your mid vowels, which is totally fine. You see that every so often. I mean, French is nearly there. It just has the low a vowel, nasalized a vowel. But that would reduce the number of distinctions again. And in fact, it would get us closer to what you have, which is you currently have a system with 1 nasal vowel, which we're not doing. We can't do that. It would get us closer to that in that you have a system with 2 nasal vowels, an and an O. Okay? And then these other ideas down here, 1A, 2A, 3A, is just at any point we can take the above schema and just make the vowels lax, which is what you're doing. So instead of having like nasal, oh God, I can't do this, like an like a nasal A, it would drop to a nasal E, right? Nasal O would drop to a nasal O, which is what you've been doing. So we can make these lax, and we'll talk more about tenses and accents later. But I bring this up purely to say, don't be put off by the fact that I've notated this with an A sound when Shensha is, if you see here, with an E sound.
Yeah.
That can and will be changed. What we're basically looking for is only what number of nasal distinctions in the modern lang would you like? The full set, high vowels dropped, or everything squishes to the middle?
I kind of like 2 and 2A.
2 and 2A. Okay, now basically 2A is what's going to happen because, again, Shensha is this vowel. That is a thing that will happen.
So 2A follows on from 2, yeah.
It almost certainly, unless I come up with some mad stuff that happens. Basically, 2A will be the output of 2, yeah.
Yeah.
So you like that one?
I like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that one.
That is almost quite literally exactly French. Not to say that French came from that place. I don't know where French came from, but its modern nasal vowels is nasal E, nasal O, and nasal A. Sometimes another one as well, depending on where you're from. Cool. All right. Okay. So I'm going to make a note of that. Do 2A and then do this one. I'm not writing Rhinoglottophilia. Okay. Cool. All right. Good. That is all I wanted to do for today. Just keep it fairly short and fairly simple. Do you have any questions and or things you want me to do next or anything like that? That was your chance. Put questions to me.
No, I think I'm pretty happy with this. Yeah. I did have a little bit, I felt sometimes I pronounced Shenshaw and I kind of nasalized the last word, the last syllable as well, but that would still be possible with idea 2 because there's a nasalized in it as well.
Totally.
So that would still be doable. Yeah. That's vowel wise I'm pretty happy.
We've a little bit more to do on vowels.
Okay.
But we can do that next month in a sort of final vowel inventory, make some calls, and then that'll be it. So yeah, as long as you're happy with the what the nasal vowels are doing, and always with the caveat that stuff may and will have to change, because as we flesh things out, we might find that actually doesn't work so well. We should edit that, etc., etc. So nothing is ever final, really. I mean, when is a conlang ever done? sort of thing. But happiness level is good at the moment, correct?
Yeah.
Excellent. Good. Okay. I guess, I suppose just to reiterate what I just said, next time we talk, we'll be finishing off proto-vowels and their history of getting to your modern vowels. And then we'll start to look at some consonants. Oh boy, these consonants, they're going to be real fun. Okay, cool. I am going to stop recording, and I'm assuming then we're going to head into Green Room.
Well, you've got one more thing here.
Oh God, yeah. Forgot about that. Okay.
Issue with ov as a coda.
Yeah, okay. We should talk about this. So, your names are very, like, they're very Slavic. Like some might say they could literally be like legit IRL Russian names, for example, which is a little bit worrying to me in the sense of like you end like Bauern to Eintov. If I recall correctly, that ov is a genitive marker, and it means like. I think so in Russian. Look it up. I think it is.
Oh, in Russian. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. So in Russian, and the idea being that like why so many names end in of, it's like belonging to and then insert father name or whatever. That's why we get like Eintov and things like that.
Well, you have Ovna is daughter of and Ovich is son of.
Right, exactly. And then I think
so
ski,
the ov is part of it there, yeah.
And I think ski is an adjective. Or adjectiving particles. So if you had something like Hletsky, that would imply that, say, Hlet would be like glorious or whatever, or glory, and then ski would make it like glory. Edgar like glory, that sort of thing, you know? Anyway, in any case, like these are legit, like these are 100% real life suffixes, which poses a little bit of a problem in the sense of like, should we be pursuing not a conlang really, but like a future Russian? Thoughts?
As in, like using Russian as a protolang and developing that.
Correct. Complete with no, you definitely don't want to do that.
No.
Okay, and so you're okay with the fact that like again names end in of, and that like really heavily implies that it's like just legit like straight up Russian.
I mean, look, we have one example of it happening on a second part of a name, and I think one example of it happening in a forename. I don't think it's a huge. Actually, two of it happening in a forename.
We also have Hletsky, so we have that ending as well, which is also again another. It has that ski marker, like we said, it has a meaning.
I mean, we also have other ones, so I think I'm fine with that. Yeah,
if you're fine with that, that's cool. And we'll talk further about that because I think it may be, this is perhaps me being a little bit like shoving my own ideas in here, which I'm trying desperately not to do. It may be an idea to go against some of the canon and obscure those like very, very Russian sounding suffixes. So instead of pronouncing it of, maybe we could do something to the V to make it a little bit different. So that
make it an F or something, or
yeah, but I think you still have off in like Smirnoff. Okay. I think like that's still a thing. You could turn it into a W, which I can't really pronounce either. So don't ask me to do it. You could do things to like obscure it a little bit, but we'll talk about that down the line. It all basically goes on how comfortable you are with having that combination there.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I mean, or to take it to rephrase a little bit to kind of like reframe it. Would you be comfortable if you were making a language and say the way you turn a verb into a noun is by putting ing after it? Would you feel uncomfortable in that scenario?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I get you.
So you need to reflect upon that. Honestly, I don't care. And if someone is like, "Oh, this is just Russian," well, they can go stuff themselves. Like I don't actually mind, but it's just you need to think about that. That's the thing you need to do. Okay, Green Room. Green Room. What are we talking about in Green Room? Sorry, no. I'll answer my own question here. Can I touch on one of the points we're going to do in Green Room, and then I'll just leave it to you?
Sure.
Next book to read. I propose that this book should be Children of Time by, I think the chap's name is Adrian Tchaikovsky. It is apparently...
Yes. I know him.
Great. It is apparently very good. It's spec bio stuff, so it's going to be important to stuff that's coming up on the main channel afterwards. Zidnaf has read this book and has been encouraging me to read it for a long time. I thought it was absolutely great. And I know that Bib wants to read this book as well. So there are enough smart people in that sort of cohort there that I think we should probably read this book. So that's the one I would like to set, unless you have any major objections.
No, I'll go with that. We haven't done any like science fiction in a while either, so
yeah. And actually, I read the first couple of chapters in A&E the last day, and it was good, and it was notable. I was kind of like, wow, we really haven't done a whole lot of sci-fi. It felt very different. Okay, so Children of Time, Adrian Tchaikovsky. Link in the show notes. Pick up a copy, and we'll review it. Maybe the podcast after next. We'll see.
Sure.
Okay, done. You have thoughts on things. What are your thoughts on things, Bill?
Well, we talked a little bit about Avatar: The Last Airbender before.
We did.
And at the time of recording the last episode, I had just the final 4-parter episode of the series left to watch, which I have now done, and I have even watched the first season of Legend of Korra.
Oh, have you noticed similarities between the first season of Legend of Korra and Master of Jin?
Master of Jin. I mean, a little.
What do you mean a little? What? Masked bad guy, claiming to be like a savior of a subset of people, shows up randomly, causes havoc. Good guys need to hunt them down in a pseudo sort of detective tale. It's basically like the Korra season 1.
I see your point. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I think a lot of things are that though, so it didn't strike me as.
There's a very finite set of stories we have as humans. What are your thoughts? I'm intrigued to hear what you're thinking, what you thought about The Last Airbender.
So I think I mentioned before, I'd made a couple of attempts to watch it, and I found it very difficult to get into. I found it very kind of kiddie at first. But I got through the first like 3 or 4 episodes this time, and then I was like properly hooked. Like watched the first season in a couple of days. Good. I really enjoy it. Really, the world building is a lot more nuanced than it appears at first.
Agree. Fully agree.
Like, you've got the 4 nations, but that isn't like a monolithic thing, and they're all like totally distinct, and there's no diversity, or there's no kind of shades in between that. Like, you've got those weird Cajun waterbenders living in a swamp in the middle of the Earth Kingdom. I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, I do have a bit of a problem with a lot of stuff where the heroes decide they're going to be the more moral characters and refuse to kill the bad guy at the end. After killing their way through hundreds of like soldiers and lackeys and henchmen and things. Like, well, why does this guy get a pass? Like, he's the worst of them all, and you just like murdered his army. Like, why don't you have any moral reservations about that? But there wasn't actually that much explicit on-screen death in this anyway. And it was kind of portrayed as a genuine struggle, and it was very in fitting with Aang's character throughout the series that he didn't want to resort to violence at the end. I mean, I would 100% just have murked the guy.
So just for anyone who somehow hasn't seen The Last Airbender,
spoilers, by the way. Sorry.
I mean, the show's ancient, so there's no spoiler warning here. But just to recap, people, at the very end, that last 4-parter is where Aang takes on the Fire Lord, isn't it? What's his name? Ozai?
Ozai, who's now the Phoenix King. Ozai.
That's it.
He recrowns himself as the Phoenix King.
And so basically, were this not a kids show, what totally should have happened is that Aang should have like murdered the bloke. But because it's a kids show, they kind of like couldn't get away with doing that so visibly and to finish off the show like that. So in what at the time felt like a massive Deus Ex Machina, although Bill, you've more recent knowledge of it, so you might be able to tell me otherwise. Aang like gains the power to be able to take away Fire Lord or Phoenix King Ozai's bending, thus rendering him like a mere mortal and not a threat. And it was kind of, at the time watching it, when I first watched it, I was kind of like, it felt like that wasn't wonderfully set up, and it really felt like, God, we can't kill him for the 10-year-olds. That's never going to happen. So it was. I think it's a good subset of people who are kind of like, I love Avatar: The Last Airbender, but like, given what it is, that final bit really kind of like, it has to drop the ball, but nevertheless, a ball has been dropped.
There was no indication of that skill existing until that final four-parter. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Bit of a J.K. Rowling going on there.
And I mean, I guess you could be like, they had dropped hints. I think this is in The Last Airbender, correct me if I'm wrong. They had dropped hints that they were definite like expansion packs, like DLCs to the airbending ability, where halfway through the show, bloodbending becomes a thing. And metal
and whatever's
bending,
going on with that like one assassin guy.
what did that one? Who? What?
You know, the guy who shoots rays from his forehead?
Oh God, I forgot about him.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I really enjoyed that. Again, the diversity to it. It's like, okay, so we've got these four kinds of magic, but like there's other stuff going on as well that people don't necessarily know about. There's like that woman who just invented bloodbending, or that guy who shoots explosion rays from his forehead. There's still other mysteries and
or Toph and the
when she invents the metal bending. Yeah. That was
so
class.
I guess there is precedence there that it's like this can be expanded upon.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, that's like, if I'm really trying to find what pretext? No, that's not the word I'm looking for.
Justification.
Is pre-shadowing a word?
Is that the same thing as foreshadowing?
Foreshadow.
Because pre and for.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So yeah, that's me really trying to find foreshadowing, but I admittedly, like, I'm stretching. Like, really, it was like, oh crap, what do we do?
And it does seem to violate that Brandon Sanderson thing of you shouldn't create new magic to solve problems for the protagonists. You should only create it to give them new problems.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's all very fair.
Do you remember? I don't know if how it ended. Did anything happen to Aang at all? Did this new power do anything to him? As I remember, it not really. He's just really like beat up back to fight, but everything's kind of fine. Did he suffer at all because of this? Was there a downside to finding
gaining access to the energy bending? I don't think so.
No, because I mean, that would have been, I think, it's slightly more narratively interesting if, like, well, let's say, for example, Aang dies, because that would have been different, right? Because I think sacrificing oneself and going quietly into night is a lot different than murdering someone. So if Aang had developed this energy bending thing and it's such a powerful form of magic that it takes away from him, that would have been kind of more satisfactory, I think. And then, like, you're like, season 2, there'll be a new Avatar because he's dead and avatars get reborn, yada yada. Or not season 2, show 2, or whatever you would call it, the sequel. But yeah, it was a case of just like, he invented this hugely powerful magic and then nothing happened, and it's like, oh, lads. But overall, the show's great. And the Cabbage Man, Bill, I love the Cabbage Guy, and it's just the gags.
I liked the callback to that in season 2, where one of the corporations is called Cabbage Corp.
In Korra.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's great. It's so good.
Fun.
And I love the whimsy of the mashup animals. They make no sense, but it's just fun. Like, it's just real fun. And it's never talked about or explained. It's just like, yeah, totally. There's like a 6-legged bison thing or a flying bat monkey. And that's just the way it is.
And the one time that they have any kind of focus on a non-hybridized animal, everyone finds it really weird.
That was funny. It's a great show. It's really good. What did you think of... Oh, God, we're nearly 2 hours. We need to wrap this up. What did you think of Korra, season 1?
I really enjoyed it. So one thing that both series do quite well is they've got well-written characters, and that's something I often, like, historically don't think about that much. It's like a flaw in myself as a reader. Like, paying good attention.
And yet he writes characters on a monthly basis.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think I do a great job of it, though. Sure. Like, for example, in the original series, I loved Toph. I thought Toph was like a really compelling character. not a nice person, like really, really obnoxious individual. But it came from very kind of sensible and logical motivations that she was the way she was. She wasn't a bad person. She was just abrasive and had a chip on her shoulder, and that caused her to be unpleasant. And I really liked how like Korra is a very, very different character to Aang.
Yes.
Markedly, very, very different personality, very, very different motivations. And I think it's very well characterized. It's a little bit more mature because the characters themselves are a little bit older.
A lot more, sure, I would say, yeah.
And they in the first one they acted believably like young teenagers. I mean, like, and Aang was only 12. Like, they acted believably according to their ages, without being annoying the way I often find children in media to be very annoyingly written. But here I thought they did a good job of it. And I mean, I'm not interested in romance storylines in general and things, so that I didn't really care about any of that in the first season. But yeah. The way like Korra makes a lot of mistakes and poor decisions and things where you're like, why are you doing this? This is a ridiculous, foolish thing to do, but it's coherent.
I think Korra is an example of an extremely good female lead. Even though I suppose, I guess the guys, there was two blokes came up with Avatar, didn't they?
Mako and Bolin. The guys that she's on the bending team with.
No, wait, what are you talking about? No, I'm on about the people who wrote the series.
Oh, sorry. Yes, yeah.
I think they're dudes, right? And like a complaint again of Master of Jin was like, this smells a lot like a man writing female parts, or female characters. This is, I think, men writing a female character, but I think it's done really well. I don't think you could look at Korra and be like, dudes definitely wrote that. Like, so I always point towards Korra as being an extremely good example, and I think her character gets better, not nicer or not like more empathetic or anything. Like, but the development I think is great as the series go on. I'm a big fan of her. Yeah. I'm assuming you're going to finish the show, because I mean the seasons are wild. The changes between seasons are nuts. So I'm really
I've heard that they're kind of almost different genres in each season of Korra.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And they are like, the first season is a kind of a self-contained story. I've heard it doesn't have the long arc that the 3 seasons of Last Airbender have.
No.
Which is cool.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see what you think of the other ones going forward. And obviously we need to do a ranking, because everyone has a ranking for Korra, because of the whole like they're self-contained, so you can very easily rank them. And there's a general tendency, kind of like, I find that on the internet people tend to agree on an order. I'd be interested to see whether or not you fall into that category. Anything else? If not, we've just crossed the 2-hour mark, and we try to keep these as an hour and a half to make it an easy live stream or an easy premiere. But I think that ship is gone, but we don't want to have the ship be gone for too long.
Well, we've just crossed the 2-hour ourselves. I think with the editing, it'll come in under 2 hours, the episode.
Yeah, but it definitely won't come in an hour and a half. I don't think we've half an hour worth of nonsense to cut.
I don't think so. No, I think that's everything. Pathfinder are bringing out a book next month that has like bending rules in it for player characters. So I might play one in my favorite RPG at some stage, which I will look forward to doing.
Sorry, I know I said we should wrap up with just one more thing. I'm envious of Avatar, because it seems like such a it's like almost like a trope, like manipulation of the elements. It seems like such a simple trope, but like they seem to have been the first one to have really kind of solidified that into like a thing. Like I could totally see Avatar doing a Tolkien here, in like that Tolkien creates what we think of as elves, orcs, etc. I could totally see Avatar as creating the vibe of like the sort of natural magic user to be used in that way. It's such a perfect encapsulation of the kind of like wielding of natural elements that that it's just it hits the nail on the head, and it's mad that it's not something that or nothing massive predates it, to my mind, anyways. For something that seems so obvious, you know.
Yeah, there's no clear kind of thing that has done the same beforehand. Yeah.
Obviously, like, I mean, I guess Eastern traditions would it's because it's drawing on that. So I'm sure that exists maybe in the folklore of some, I don't know, Chinese province or something, but nothing that's kind of like taken it and made a constructed world and narrative around it, etc.
Although it uses a Western conception of the elements, because in Chinese, I think it's usually 5 elements.
Oh, wait, what are they? Earth, fire, wind, water.
No. See, wind isn't, because wind is chi.
Isn't.
So that's kind of more fundamental. So it's earth, stone, wood, metal, fire.
Earth, stone, wood.
Sorry, earth and stone would be the same. Earth, water. Stone, metal, fire. No, wood, metal, fire. Earth, water, wood, metal, fire.
Earth bending, cool. Water bending, cool. Wood bending, that has cool.
That's pretty cool.
Well, I mean, I guess you could kind of like make the trees come alive and like turn into vines and stuff.
Exactly.
Okay. Earth bending, water bending, wood bending, metal bending we have, and fire bending. I mean, yeah, I guess. Yeah, so. Like, obviously, it's a westernized. It draws on Eastern influences and westernizes.
Sure.
That's it's obvious. Anyway, great show, just so good. Bill, I love you. We've gone 2 hours 5 minutes. We really got to wrap this up. I had so much fun. Did you have as much fun as I did?
I had a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
Folks, I hope you also had as much fun as Bill and I. We will see you next month for you know the deal, the same shtick. Thanks for watching. Thanks for patronizing. Thanks for everything y'all do. Y'all are great. Until next time,
Edgar out.